Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the MTO CMS General Functionality Training. Please note that this training session is being recorded to support future training and that by attending the training, you consent to this training. Please also note that as we are recording this session, we will be making this available and using it to improve for future sessions. The Q&A portion of the training will be recorded and distributed with answers after the session. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. My name is Jamie Lozon. I'm the head of MTO Business Solutions section and lead for this project. Also going to be taking us through the presentation and some highlights is Ryan McCarricker, who is the team lead from the Business Solutions section. And Arthur T, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I haven't got that down yet, is our product manager from our vendor, KPMG, who will be providing a demonstration of today's session. I also wanted to point out that there are some additional training sessions available this week, as well as more sessions that will be available post go live. So we have today's general functionality session. There's a duplicate session of the general functionality scheduled for this Friday. If you have any colleagues that aren't able to attend, they can register for that session. We also have a session that is dedicated for contractors scheduled for Wednesday, February the 8th at 2 to 4 p.m. And finally, a contract administrator session that is scheduled for Friday, the 10th at 1 to 4 p.m. Links to all these sessions are available were sent out by email, but are also available on the RAC's homepage, and you can click right from them there. Just a brief note about questions and answers for this session. As you may see, we do have, I think, close to 700 people that have registered for this session, so it's really hard to manage questions and answers either by audio or by the chat function. However, we do have the question and answer functionality available in Teams. So if you look in your toolbar, you'll be able to see that function is available. Our team will be moderating the questions that come in and trying to provide as many answers as we can. We do ask that we hold the questions till the end of the session and that you try to keep your questions related to the topic for today, which is more around the CMS general functionality of the system. We realize that each user group is going to have many questions specific to individual processes or records that they're concerned with, but we will try to make sure that we get to those in the more targeted sessions. So please do use the Q&A function. There's also an ability to like other people's questions that they've raised in the Q&A. So that's a helpful guide for us as well to address the questions that we can. So depending on how much time we have left at the end of our hour-and-a-half session today, we will try to get to as many of those popular questions as possible. Slide. I just wanted to provide a brief overview of the CMS project for those that may not be as aware of the work that we've been doing over the past year. Last January, we did award a contract to replace the existing WBCMS solution. KPMG, in partner with Kahua, the technology platform, was the successful provider, and we've been working with them since about February last year to configure the new system. So there's been a lot of discovery workshops, testing, development work that has been ongoing throughout this year. It's been a large undertaking, and really want to thank participants from both industry and the ministry who helped participate in those discovery and configuration settings. We are excited to have the new solution coming online, and we really feel that we've done a lot to improve the system and capture the needs of the users. It has been configured with MTO business policy and processes in place, and we think it's going to be very beneficial to users. So CMS is officially scheduled to go live. We're 1 week away, February 13th, 2023. And again, we're excited for the go live. Just a little bit on the scope. The new CMS is to include all construction and engineering contracts within the ministry. So the previous solution was primarily just design, bid, build, construction contracts, CA agreements, and the material lab contracts. And the new solution will be adding the engineering functionality that wasn't in there previously. That is occurring at a future phase, targeting towards this summer. But will be available, and significant progress has already been made on the development of that functionality. And then also alternative delivery contracts that previously weren't included in CMS, like design, build, CMGC, and others, will also be available in CMS. However, they may be transitioned in over the spring timeline. Just of note, what will be available at Go Live. The majority of the functionality will be available. However, there are some records that are still being finalized and will come on board in future releases over the spring and early summer. For example, the material lab testing, some functionality will be available at Go Live. However, we're continuing to work on some of those complex records and test codes. So more communication will be available on that. And just a little bit on the scope for today's session. We intend to again cover general functionality, access and registration, setting yourself up in the system, basically navigating the platform, working within your contract, finding projects and contracts. There's a bit of a different structure within CMS than there was in WBCMS. Also, how you navigate communicating within the system, tasks, messages, sending records, and just a general overview of how the system is structured. It's application based as opposed to file structure based, and we'll go over all that in the demonstration. So I'm looking forward to today's session and hearing your comments and initial feedback. Please do realize that this is our first session, and obviously we're at an early stage in the project, but we did commit to providing at least some training sessions pre-go live. It's been a busy implementation period, but we intend to take these sessions, improve upon them, and make more sessions available for users throughout the spring. So the part of the beauty of using formats like this in Microsoft Teams is that we can reach a large audience, and we can make the materials and recordings even available after the session. So again, welcome to the session. Thank you very much for attending, and please do utilize that Q&A feature that we can address some questions at the end. So with that, I'm going to switch it over to Ryan, who's going to take you through a few more slides before we get into the demo.
All righty. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ryan McCarricker. I hail from West Region, so I may know some folks in line, may probably not know a lot of others, but we'll probably hear from a lot of folks throughout the years through assistance and everything. So it's nice to introduce myself. I'm just going to fire up my portion of the slides here. We're just going to go through some general stuff. So Kahua. Kahua is the platform which we are leveraging with our partners at KPMG and Kahua to configure a custom solution for our MTO business needs. It has several benefits. Obviously, we talked about a lot of this with WBCMS as well, and we were able to realize some, but I think we have been able to fully realize a lot of the benefits that you see here. And we're going to continue making use of those into the future. So we're doing things like we always did, like minimize time to value. So the amount of time that you're spending doing administrative tasks or printing, signing, scanning, sending, printing, signing, scanning, and returning for a change order, stuff like that is all minimized and obviously diminished greatly. The system itself and the team that we have from KPMG and Kahua who work with us to manage and change and adapt the system is very flexible. So it's we've realized that through our configuration and all our discovery meetings and actually developing the apps and stuff that we're going to use to undertake the business processes. And going forward, it's going to be very useful for things like business changes or enhancing processes in the system. It's a very flexible, scalable system too. So we're able to scale things up to a large degree. Our business itself, whether you compare it to others or just live within our business, is a very large, complex business. And I think ourselves and KPMG have done a good job to incorporate that in an intuitive way into the system. So we're hoping that it's going to be intuitive based on your business knowledge and the knowledge of the processes and how things are supposed to flow. We hopefully have built that this way. Consolidating solutions. So we've done that in a few different ways. We've consolidated some processes and built some suites that encompass, several different formerly independent apps into one. They function sometimes symbiotically and they link to other records, as well as other systems. So we're integrating with other systems to automate processes. So we integrate with RACS ESP, with CPS, with PPS, with CDMS. So for those external folks, that's just a bunch of acronyms to mean basically our program planning, our financial tracking, our tendering systems, all of that. So we're starting to be more intelligent internally with our other systems and not having a bunch of standalone data homes, basically. Continuous evolution, I spoke to that a bit already, as far as business processes changing and us being able to adapt the system to those changes, or just improving the system based on the same business practices through learning or suggestions or whatever else. And then network collaboration. So we did a lot of that, both with Kahua and with our own business units and our subject matter experts. This is basically what you see when you get invited to Kahua. So you can download it. For Windows, there's a desktop version. There's this screenshot is from an app-based version. You can scan the QR code in the bottom. It's also mobile friendly, so it's available in the App Store, the Google App Store, and the Apple Store. So you can download it to your iPads, your tablets, your smartphones. It works on the smartphones very well. I don't know if you want to type a whole novel on a smartphone, but it's completely up to you. You will have that ability. Some system features. So the modern agile application, I spoke to that a bit already. The way the system is set up with individual apps, we can tailor an individual app independently of the rest of the system. We can have apps communicate with each other. We can integrate them. We can pass inputs and outputs from one app to the other. And it's highly configurable that way. So it bodes well for our intricate business where there's so many contributing processes to other processes and things are interrelated. And that also helps greatly in our auditability and our transparency. So we can track down processes. There's you can follow timelines and audit things in a streamlined way. So the reportability, that's kind of a little bit what I'm talking about, but we've heavily focused on the construction of this system to be reportable. So albeit mostly a benefit for the owner, we are going to be able to pull numbers based on any number of values that are input into any app, basically. So we can pull change orders based on amounts or basis of payments or dates or users or titles or items or whatever it is, and that's the same for basically everywhere else in the system. One system feature that certainly does bode well for the external users is there's no cost anymore. The licenses will be managed by the ministry, so there's no concern there. There is a little blip in the RFQs, the RFPs, and the 100S69, which modifies the general conditions to require the use of our online system. So that's still in there. There's some language that speaks to the licenses and whatnot, but it's very brief. So if you need any clarification, you'll see those in your upcoming contracts that are coming out. We do have a 24/7 support team for ongoing projects. We're still ironing out the details of how exactly it will work between ourselves and the KPMG and the Kahua team, but you will have certainly multiple teams at your disposal, whether it's a technical question or a business related question or a problem or whatever it is. We're here to help you. So, and then of course the ongoing improvements that I've spoken to before. We've had the opportunity to enhance and improve some processes. Some of them I'm very excited about, like change management. We've completely overhauled, and I'm very confident it's an improvement. We have streamlined communication with our internal and external users as well. So We have went out of our way to consult and confer with absolutely every business owner, subject matter expert, anyone who would come to a meeting with us and tell us about what they need from the system. We have taken that in, and we've worked with them to develop as best we can. It's kind of a twofold. The communication is also within the system. So now that we have engineering in the system and our functional offices in the system, something like an information request doesn't have to be exported and emailed to somebody and da 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 da. You can just send it within internally in the system to whichever user you need, if it's a structural person or a geotechnical person, and you can get an answer within the system too. So that keeps everything kind of in-house and obviously lends to the reporting and auditing ability. So the development team, I was speaking about a little about this already. Our core CMS team that works for the ministry in the business solutions section is much larger, and our experience is more varied. So we have construction folks, we have CA folks, we have some IT folks from the labor and transportation cluster. We have our WBCMS folks as well. So we have bolstered our team with good experience. The team works really well together, and I've been really impressed with them since I joined this project as far as how they work and how quickly they can put things out the right way. So that's been a really good benefit for us. The business consultation too is what I was speaking to in the last slide a little bit, where we have, like I said, we've gone out of our way. We've consulted as much as possible. We do demos to the groups and everything. So we are hoping and we're confident that what we've produced is in line with what the business requirements are. And as well as the vendor experience. So our KPMG and our Kahua team have the same, great amount of varied experience. They've done large scale, high complexity organizational project management solutions for other groups as well as ourselves. Many of them hail from construction and project management backgrounds. So we're really speaking the same language when we're working or dealing or developing an app or something like that. And that's been very helpful. So
Ryan,
some more specific, yeah.
Ryan, it's Jamie. Sorry, I'm just jumping in. I saw a comment in the screen. Is your screen being shared?
Is it not?
I can see it, but I just want to make sure because someone in the chat posted that. I'm seeing some thumbs up, so maybe it's just an isolated issue. Sorry. Thank you for those on the line that confirming with the thumbs up. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, stop me again if something's up. If something's not, something's not working there. Oh, I lost my place. Here we go. So the specific enhancements, change management suite. I talked about that already. So change order, change proposal, compensation request, and OPA have all been kind of bundled into a suite. And this change management suite houses all apps and mechanisms that can enact a commercial change on the project. So any financial change, you can add tender items, anything like that, it's in here. We've done it for several reasons. From the back end, we can build our forecasting report out of that and easily, track our project costs and everything. But it kind of makes sense because these apps are so, not interchangeable, but interrelated and symbiotic. So the change proposal, the CR goes to the change order. We've also greatly reduced the amount of workflows and changed kind of the process. So it's a very simple. It basically works like the old CAS used to work, where it's an internal system. The contractor doesn't see it. The CA has their internal system, and out of that system, they're going to create their change orders, get DOFMA, get everything they need to, and out of it comes one change order. It gets signed. That comes back. Out of it comes one price agreement. That gets signed. There's all the negotiation and stuff with it built in within there, but broken down to a simple step. It's just a few steps. So hopefully that's going to work. As well as the TMSP process has been overhauled. So there's 3 major issues with it that have been solved. You couldn't progressively pay a time material change order without closing it, which is solved now. We can do that. You couldn't separate prime and subcontractors, and the equipment was an issue as well. So that has all been solved. You can link multiple TMSPs to one change order. So you can separate your primes, you can separate your subs, separate your union and your non-union. You can make as many TMSPs as you want and organize them that way. So we're hoping that should provide some benefit as well. Material weight ticket suite. So we never had this before. Tickets were all handled outside, but we've devised a way to quickly and easily record the material tickets in the system by way of photograph using your mobile phone theoretically, but you can use anything you want. And then those ticket summaries will automatically roll up to a pay statement made available in the inspector or the CA's diary to confirm and file. So by the end of the day, hopefully the material weight ticket quantity should be input, recorded in an auditable fashion, and resulting in a pay statement in the same day. And the verification notice suite, this is sort of new business, but as we all know, over the last few years, the QBE process has been replaced with this CFC, request to proceed, notice to proceed, request to place structural concrete, all that kind of stuff. So that's all been combined into one suite. It's just a drop down. You choose what you're going to do, attach your certificate, attach whatever sealed documents you need, and then submit that. And the CA will return an action. Either they'll close it, they'll issue a notice to proceed, or they'll reject it. These are just some CMS resources. Like I said before, we're still ironing out how it's going to work, who's going to be the first call, the second call, or if we'll devise technical from business, but we're working on that. We will obviously send a communication as soon as we've ironed out the details and the contacts, but for now, you always have the MTO CMS support team there, so you can email us with any issues you have, and all our guides are also going to be on the technical publications. So the user guides, we're just finalizing them this week. They're ready to go. They should be ready for go live, and they'll be available on the technical publications site. So if you're unaware, we've kind of moved away from RACs as far as posting documents, and we now have our own standalone technical publications site. So if you click here, it's going to take you over to the screen you see on the right, and there's a CMS tab there. It's not a whole lot of stuff now. Whoops, not a whole lot of stuff now, but you'll see a lot more stuff down here in the near future. General functionality demo. So this is where I hand it off to Arthur at KPMG. So thank you for listening to some rambling, and he's going to take you through a demo of the actual system.
Hi, Ryan. It's Jamie again. I'm just trying to confirm. I'm not sure if there's potentially an issue, but I'm not sure if Arthur is actually on the line. There might be a technical thing going on his side. But if he is, Arthur, now would be the time to join and speak up. If not, we will pivot. Oh, I see Arthur has his hand up, so he must be there.
Oh, maybe he doesn't. If he's a guest, maybe he doesn't have speaking.
I gave him presenter access. With this webinar, yeah, the way you set it up, you can mute people in general. Let me see.
Allow Mike. Can you speak now, Arthur?
Sorry, I think you have the wrong Arthur that you
Oh.
unmuted. It's Arthur from Graham.
Oh, you invited the MTO Arthur email.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think Arthur's in this one, Jamie. I think it's his MTO email that's in this meeting.
Okay.
That's okay.
So can I ask that we pivot then, and you try to, and then James can also jump in as necessary, and we can just kind of navigate through the system a little bit. And in the meantime,
Yeah.
I'll try to see if I can get Arthur plugged in.
Let me just pull these slides up. Sorry, folks, bear with us. We did say it's the first session. Okay, so user access and registration. So this is just logging in. This isn't registering. There we go. So I'll log in here. So registration is going to look a lot like this screen. that I had before. So you're going to receive an email. You used to receive, I can't remember if it was upon a notification of acceptance of award or when it was, but there'd be a little slip requesting your company user administrator be identified by name and email. That will come back to us, and we would set that person up, and then that person would set up everyone in your company who's going to be on the project. So now, because we're doing it internally, we're going to send an email basically asking for who the people you need registered will be. They will fill that out, send it back to us, and we will sign those people up. And then those people will get an email that looks exactly like this one. You'll click launch, and it'll take you in to set up a profile with your name and your company and your email and a password and all that good stuff. So that's how you get registered, basically. The registration itself and the duration is obviously just subject to the duration of the contract. Oh, I think I'm getting kicked out here, so I'm just gonna restart it. This is a test environment, and we are deep in the throes of testing right now. So there's being multiple changes made to the platform and the apps and everything each day. But production is very much not like that. It's not touched very often, and the performance issues are a lot better. So this is the general system here. Let me get the training scope up. So navigating the platform, let's start from the beginning here. So this is kind of your dashboard on the left. You can pop it out. You've got your project, your apps. Dashboard is for, you know, what it sounds like, a bunch of widgets and stuff that pop up based on data that you feed into it, and it can make bar charts and whatever else, pie graphs. The calendar function here, and then search. You can search anything in the system. These are the base functions. This is where you're going to find everything. This is kind of where your project tree is. And then down here, your tasks and your messages. So this is basically your to-do list or your task list like you had in WBCMS. These are all the tasks that are awaiting your action, and they don't disappear until you've taken an action on them. You also have messages within the system, which you can message other people in the system. It functions kind of like an email service or something like that. But you also get messages as a result of other things. So you can see I got a message saying I need, you know, there's a DWR that's been submitted and I haven't reviewed it, so I need to take action on it. Or sometimes when a road reports gets sent, you know, you can get a copy of the PDF in here sent to your messages. So that's pretty useful too. Getting started, this is just kind of a blast of everything on your screen. You got your recent messages here, recent tasks, just, you know, the last 4 or 5, some of these bar charts and pie graphs I was talking about here. Moving up here.
Hey,
so
Ryan.
this, hey, Arthur.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to take
for
over?
that. I think we're good. Yes.
No, I think we invited the wrong email. We need to delete your MTO one.
No worries at all.
Everyone, this is
Right,
Arthur. He's been the main lead from KPMG.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Hello, everyone. I'm the product manager for this implementation, so I would have the detailed knowledge of all the ins and outs of the system functionality. If I may ask whoever is the organizers to just give me the permissions to share the screen.
You should have that permission, Arthur. I set you up as a presenter. And it's not allowing you to?
Only meeting organizers. No, it's great. Oh, there it is. There it is on my end. All right. I'm going to share my screen here. Please let me know when everybody can see it.
Yep.
Good to go.
All right, fantastic. For the sake of the presentation, I'll go off video, but then I'll be back.
Can you hear him?
Yeah,
he
your
muted
mic's off,
himself
buddy.
instead of turning
Arthur.
his
You
camera
muted
off.
yourself, Arthur.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
There we go.
All right, fantastic. So what I was going on about is, let's talk first about how majority of project participants are going to be accessing Kahua. And the way that that's going to be done is because it's a software as a service, there's nothing required for your machine. We recommend Google Chrome as the primary browser. We found that its performance is most responsive in that. And essentially, you'll have a link that you'll add to the top of your banner. Mine would look like this, and that would launch you into the launch portal. From here, there's two ways of accessing Kahua. One from an application, which is meant primarily for more advanced administrative users, which is kind of a light desktop application, but predominantly for everybody else, it's going to be through the browser. And I'll just go through some of the steps of what that would look like. You'll click Launch in Browser. The Kahua welcome window would spin for a while and would prompt you with the sign in screen. Now, the way that you know that you have access into Kahua is you'd get an email saying that you've been added to a certain domain or to a certain project, and then you'll follow a link and it'll take you through the exact same process as it is here. So what it's doing right now is it's just getting all of the application information. And here's our welcome screen. Then, very similar, all of the other systems, you will just type in your password, you'll click sign in. It'll tell you at the bottom that the sign in has started, and then you'll be prompted into your working environment. You will automatically come into the last project where you work. For me, it's the SMS Highway 552. So now that we're in here, we'll kind of go down the list and we'll talk about some of your settings in terms of how do you get set up for approvals, how do you add your photograph and signature if you may elect to want to do that. Then we'll talk about the general dashboard, some of the standard options that will never disappear off the screen, and et cetera, and some of the controls. Mind you, for those that may or may not see, if you just hold down Control and you scroll up, you can make the screen larger or smaller, however large you want. So if I can get some thumbs up if you guys are able to see the screen, because I know a lot of you maybe seen it on your laptop. So if this works and everybody's good, then we'll proceed with this level of being zoomed in. So your own personal information is located at the top right in your production environment. When you come in, there's obviously not going to be any photographs there, but when you do click on it, you'll have some options here from my settings to switching profiles if you belong to more than one organization, or enabling dark theme, which is in beta now, but that is something that is active on both mobile devices and the interface here as well. So let me just go back and we'll talk briefly about my settings. So this is the My Settings screen. On the general profile section, that's where you, let me see here. This is where you have the option to reset your own password if you ever want to change it, so you don't have to go out. Everybody from MTO will be signing in through SSO, which means that the system is just going to use whatever sign-in method you're using or password you're currently using to sign into MTO systems. So there's not going to be a difference, but in case that you don't want to change it, that's where it would be. For the general information, it's some settings in and around copying, either enabling or disabling notifications to be copied to your inbox, and we'll talk a little bit about those later. Definition of your time zone, setting of the language, and some of the other regional information, whether you want to show project numbers or not, which will remove the project number from the very top. Some account details and some of the other functionality that I don't think we're going to be using, like integration with Google Drive, etc. On the profile side, this is where you'll see yourself as the user, and this is where you can come in, change your picture, provide any information about yourself that you may want. That's where some of that gets sorted out. In the signature, this is where you'll confirm your 4-digit PIN. And essentially, it's as simple as entering in a PIN that you'd like. In this particular instance, I've uploaded a copy of my signature. There is a way to copy those signatures over into documents, so it can look like your signature when you're signing it. I think for the most part, we're using a digital signature, where the system will request the PIN from you, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. And you'll enter in the PIN, and your name and the date of that signature is going to be recorded. And the ability to set some out-of-office emails and delegate any of the tasks that are being sent to you to a particular individual. So that's it for the settings. Just keep in mind that if you change the picture immediately, you might have to log in and out in order for everything to be updated across all environments. All right. We'll come back to this. I see Olivera sent me something for authorization, so we'll take a look at it after. So after that, we'll come to the main dashboard screen. The majority of applications on your left-hand side here don't go away. So this is your navigation portion of the dashboard, which includes the project finder, which is exactly what it sounds like, and we'll take a look at it after. This is how you're going to locate your projects and what you've been permissioned to see and act on. Applications presents you with the total applications that you have access to, and that's what that list would look like. You can have that list either vertical to scroll down or horizontal. There's also an opportunity to group these into administration, cost management, document management, index management, and I think that may evolve as the time goes on. The next one is the dashboard view. There may be an assortment of dashboards that you may have created. Let me hop into a different project because I mocked one up to show you. No. Where is it? CMS 512. Was it this one? 1 second. I think it was this. Yeah, that looks more correct. So this is where you'll either have enterprise-wide dashboards or some of the dashboards that you'll develop for yourself that will be visible to yourself. You're able to share them and maintain them here. The next one is the calendar. This is where you'll set up the project calendar and you have availability to set up a calendar. The one after that is your advanced search function, which will allow you to search across any records within Kahua and locate them for various partitions across either all applications or very specific applications. So if you wanted to find something that's saying compensation requests, then this is the way that you're going to be able to do that. Under that main line are your main functionality, I guess, main feature applications that don't go away. One of them is tasks. The way that the collaboration happens in Kahua is task-based. So you receive a task and you, in essence, have ball in court. The record is locked until you make a certain decision and you can advance that record forward. And that all happens in the tasks app. This is not unique to a particular project. This is environment. Essentially, it's one place where all the tasks across all of the projects are going to come into. The one after that is called messages. I'd like you to think about it as messages and emails. There's an opportunity to have these come into your inbox. They don't just have to be maintained within the messages application. And they will have all of the, and that will contain all of the messages from various applications. That is predominantly focused on notifications when something is being submitted and when something is finally being responded to. So that will include things like me receiving a request for an approval or anything like that. The last option here is going to appear all the time unless you disable it. Let me just bring this up. Might be a little bit faster here. And that's your active dashboard. And essentially, it's just going to show you a summary of all of the tasks. And if you click this, it'll prompt you into the Tasks app, and it'll show you everything that you're currently working on, or some of the other KPIs, open tasks, the division of your tasks by different applications. What are you holding on that's based on submittals, infraction process, etc., and the recent messages you would have received, which is going to look like this. So, for example, there's a notification that I've received from a change proposal, and it's going to dictate, or I guess let you know, project, the contract that belongs to, some of the key information, and offer a link for you at the very bottom. So whether you're in your email browser or you're in Kahua, you don't actually have to go and look for this record. All you do is you click open in Kahua, and it'll redirect you into that application and open up that record for you, and then you can see the summary of available actions for you to take here. Now, accessing and actually using the application, there's a standard set of features and behavior that we'll talk about right now. And let's take a look at, trying to think what would be the good one. I think diary would be a good one to take a look at. So clicking into the application, there's two things you're going to be faced with. For the most part, it's going to be a log. So what this is called is a general log of all of the records. From this point on, you can either search for something in particular. Let's say if I wanted to search by diary category and I just want to see the concrete items, it's going to give me all of the concrete items. If I want to search maybe not the diary and I want to search something a little bit more specific, by the inspector, let's say show me everything that has Arthur in it. And it'll look at the inspector and it'll bring up that complete list.
Butters.
Sorry?
No, sorry.
All right, so that's search. The next one is this drop down. So what this is managed views. And this is a whole list of pre-configured views that are available to the users. They're going to be available to everybody. And from here, you can say group everything by category, and it'll give you a summary of all of the bituminous, concrete, electrical, environmental, and grade diaries. If you then go on and you say, show me diaries grouped by compensation request, it'll give you everything grouped by those compensation requests. Show me just the open items. These two are open. Show me things by subject. That's the grouping function, and that's what it would look like. On the far right, you'll see open in reporting, which is kind of an ad hoc report. It'll give you the ability to generate a PowerPoint, system generated PowerPoint report. It may not look the most formatted, but that's what the system is going to provide, and that's available for any type of the view that you would like. There's also an ability to download and save it, and not just the PDF. You can also save it as a CSV or XLM, and essentially that's going to provide you with an Excel version of that particular report, in case you wanted to go on and do something with that data. So I'm just opening it now. Actually, should have selected a slightly different option to open it. I think it's the download data. There you go. And you'll get something that looks like this. And that's a sum of the information from that report. And then you can just go on and do whatever other manipulations from this that you wanted to do.
Arthur, can I just,
Right.
just for 2
Yep.
seconds, I'm not sure if the
Sure.
hands up are the technical difficulties or not, but I've heard from others, if you're having issues viewing the screen, it's not showing, try leaving and then joining the meeting again. And I think that's fixed it for other people. Otherwise, we'll address questions at the end. Thanks.
All right, do you want me to proceed?
Yeah, sorry, that was it. That was it.
Perfect. So that covers everything else here. Now, selection and viewing of the actual information on the report. And for this, I'll just go into the default view. So, which will give me a log of all of the diaries in the descending order. So my latest one is going to be 18. Oh, and I should probably add that you're also able to configure these views. So you're able to define what you want your own views to look like. And all you got to do is click Manage Views. You're going to go in here and from here, select what it is that you'd want. So let's say you'd want to put an indicator in red to say that something is delayed. You would just apply the appropriate filters and you will carry that out, and you also can duplicate. Let me see if I can show you what that would look like. Red, say this would be, what am I looking at? Status, open. Filter by status. You'll say, now let's say contains, open, done, save as, red, open. Save, and here you'll have a little pop-up. They'll say share everyone with a permission, which means everyone permission to this project, or just myself. I'll say it's just me. It's going to indicate my name, the company name. Save, update, close. And it'll update this open, and it'll highlight everything in red. And you can layer as many of these as you'd want. So that's about that. Now, once you actually click on the record itself, and we'll click on the very, very bottom one here, the screen will divide into two halves. On the right-hand side, that's going to be the view of the actual record. There's an easier way to control what you're seeing is with the three buttons at the very bottom. Log view, shared screen, complete record view. Once you're in the record, these sections are collapsible and openable based on what you'd like. Certain business processes that are very, very long to optimize user experience, they've all been collapsed. So what you do is you'd open them as required when you go through them. So the standard sections for almost every single application are going to be general and status. In general, what's going to be captured generally in it is the title or the subject of the record that you're trying to initiate or save. Any linked records, like you can see that there's a reconciliation that's linked here. There's a contract, and both of these are going to be added. In most instances, if we're pointing to other records, they're all hyperlinks. So if I wanted to see that this diary is included in the reconciliation, it's a matter of clicking the reconciliation, and it's going to prompt me into that reconciliation and open it up. And then from here, you can say, oh, it's in reconciliation, and this is the invoice that it belongs to. This is the contract. You're also able to have multiple applications open at the same time. So once reconciliation is open, I can click on my left side navigation pane back into diary, and I'll be prompted back into the exact same record if I want to go back. And status. Status is going to contain status field, which is the status of the record, where it's open, draft, open, or closed, and stage, which means the workflow stage that the record is going through. In this particular stage, this record is reconciled, which means there's no more. That's the end of the process for it. It's not going to go anywhere else. But the other stages may be, and let's just take a look at, if we don't have any examples here, they may be category change order. Oh, we don't seem to have a grouping by stage, but there'll be other records that are going to be either terminated in reconciliation, which means that they've been added to a reconciliation record, or reconciled. That's a little bit on the stages. Then you get into some of the other sections here, and these sections generally pertain to the actual filling out of the diary itself, where there's labor and there's equipment, there's materials. and a couple of options that you'll have on top. So with send, you're able to send this over with the messaging app and essentially send it through messages and email it to any other user or any other contact that you may have, as long as they have an email. This is going to work very similar to how your Outlook app is going to work. Just give me 1 second. You'll just type in a name like Ryan. You'll add him in here, provide a subject, provide any description, and the system is going to automatically link any associated documents or files to this that are included here. So that's one. I think that's the main one. The history tab is a tab that's going to show you the sum of all the workflow. When was the record started, date and time, by what user, then it went into the submitted step, then it went into the close step, and when exactly did that happen, along with the summary of the various activities that have taken on, that have changed on the record, right? When was the reconciliation added? When was the stage changed, etc. And that is going to be linked to each user. A lot of the other settings, like obviously have an administrative view. So a lot of the other settings like processing and delete, you're not going to have, but you are still going to have this URL here. So if you wanted to send something to somebody, either through the send function or share the URL, it's a matter of clicking this URL function and you can paste them the link or send them the link that will prompt them directly into this record. So that's a little bit about what you'll see when the application, the record is being created in the application. Now, what it would look like is, we'll just take a brief look at that. And Ryan, please keep me up to date in terms of how much time we have left.
About 7 minutes, roughly.
Yep, that's fine. So there's a couple of fields that users will interact with, and there's three major types. There is a read-only or view-only field, which is number. That is going to be system assigned. You don't have to interact with it or care about it. Diary date is going to capture today's date. You also don't have to worry about it. And that's defined by per business process. Generally on standard, inspectors, contract administrators are all coming from a predefined register. Statuses are business process driven. Ball in court is business process driven, which means exchange who's currently got the task and who's currently has an activity pending on this particular record. And optional fields. There are going to be fields that you can see that you can edit, but you can also not edit them. They're not mandatory. When a field is mandatory, it's going to be highlighted in red and underlined like this. So if I try to go and save, the system is going to give me an alert and say, hey, subject is required. Now, in case of diary, that subject is compensation request, change order, or a tender item. And let's say we select the compensation request. Compensation request field is going to automatically appear at the bottom, which will now be the next level of a required field. If I'm to switch over to change order, the field is going to be change order. And if it's tender item, it's going to be a tender item. So keep in mind that the system is going to be dynamic, and it'll look for your input that way. So I'll select the compensation request, which will be the CR17, Arthur's compensation request. The next field is diary. Diary is going to have a number of options that the business has identified, along with an option for other. So keep in mind, if other is selected, that's your diary type for other. If you do select grade, notice that the system is going to say you don't need to enter anything. But it gets a little bit more, I guess, interesting than that, because if you're then to go on and select grade, and you'll see status, labor, equipment, materials. If you're to select bituminous, all of a sudden a bituminous section will open up below. If you're to select traffic, you'll see a traffic section that opens up. If you're to, well, I think that's pretty much it for variants. I think there's concrete, and then for concrete you have concrete delivery tickets. So that's a manner in which the system will be dynamic, or the diaries will be dynamic to accept information based on different diary type. And let's just click bituminous. Another element that you'll interact with, and I'll open this full screen just so it's a little bit more open. Actually, before we move on to that, the last piece here is distribution list. How distribution list is used is the following. You will identify contacts here that you'd want to be notified when it's submitted or when the process is closed. Those are at the very bare minimum the two primary functions. So if Ryan is the CA and I'm the inspector, for example, I'd like Ryan to know that it's been submitted so he doesn't have to worry about it. And maybe somebody else, I'll just add them here. It'll identify the person's name and the company and send them a notification. So moving on, there's two different types of tables that you'll interact with. One of them is a table that allows you to insert. This is what that looks like. You're able to add as many rows as you want. You're able to highlight these rows and delete them. And there's also going to be some required fields here. So notice that we filled everything out, but I've added a new row. And if I click save, the system is going to say mixed type. So we're going to mixed type. You can fill out this information. Certain fields, where applicable, are going to have the ability to store multiple decimal points. And provide calculations. Certain fields, again, are not editable by the user. Other ones are, and the calculations will happen dynamically. So you have the ability to enter 1. You have the ability to enter 5 fields. You also have the ability to not work in this view. If you click this button, it'll open a dedicated dashboard view and give you all of the fields in a vertical fill out type that you may be used to. So that's a little bit more convenient. The very bottom, you see another type of table. So if you insert here, these tables fully support drop-down menus. They support your ability to select time. And where applicable, it'll instruct you to provide a comment. So that's on this. Just moving through this, I'll come up to the last piece here that you'll see in all of the applications, and that's the file manager and the ability to upload or reference other Kahua documents. So I can go into here and I can upload, say from my downloads, the diary. Actually, I'll upload 2 of them. It'll upload them. I'll click OK, and it'll store them for me. I'm also able to reference another Kahua document, and that will look like this. I can go into change proposals, and I can select the change proposal and click add, and it'll give me a link to that change proposal as well. That's not to be confused with reference information, which is the ability to link other records. So I'll show you guys what that looks like for diaries. So let's say in this diary, I'd like to reference another diary. I'll go into here. I can sort based on applicable view. And let's say I'd like, actually, let's do subject. Submitted, closed. And let's say I'll take these 3, not even 4. And it'll save them for me like this. Now, anytime it's blue, everybody already knows it's a hyperlink. So if I click on this, it's going to prompt me inside of that DWR and show it to me. Ryan, time?
It's up to you. If you want to show something more, like we're leaving roughly half an hour for questions. So,
you want me to keep going up to what
Q&A.
time?
Yeah, we don't have a ton of questions. There's probably a dozen or so. So we could probably dedicate a bit more time to the demo and then save 15 minutes for the questions.
And for those who are, if you can review the Q&A section, I've answered a lot of them. I'm going to try and answer more. So.
All right, sounds good. So I'll take it. Pause me when you want to take you want to take the helm. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. So let's say we've gotten to a point where we're comfortable with this progress. What we'll do is we'll just save. The first save is the save of a draft record, and the status in this particular business process goes automatically to open, but it has not been submitted to anybody. And there's a user guide that will explain what that process is in detail. But now you can see that the system considers me the inspector because I've created this record. It identified a contract administrator. It identified the contractor company. And then once the record already exists, then you'll usually go to the edit portion unless you have a task. Click edit, it'll put it into edit view, and what we'll do is we'll add some information in here, because then we'll send it for review, and I'll show everybody what that looks like. Now, there is a number of registers that are maintained in here. A very good example is case. So if you go to link case, you're going to get a bunch of options. Let's say I'd want the 929. Actually, let's do this. 929. And I'm going to highlight all of them. So this takes in all of the 929Ks. I'm going to click select. And the system is going to add all of them for me, and it's going to ensure that I provide a mandatory comment. I will not be able to save without providing that comment. Let's say we don't necessarily want to answer all of them here. So I'm just going to clean up this list a little bit. Let's open it up in dashboard view, and I'll just provide some comments here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 8, done. You'll see all of the comments of whatever you've typed in appear over there. These columns are all dynamic, so feel free to move them around. The system will remember how you've moved them around, etc. The other more complicated intake is the labor and your ability to link laborers. So in order to take a look at that, we'll have to go to the labor app. The labor app is comprised of two different applications. There's one application that defines the labor type, whether it's a foreman, laborer, traffic controls person, equipment operator, etc. And the other one that actually records whether that labor resource is active, their rate, their unit of measure, etc. The way that you create it is very similar to what we've just done. You'll create new. You'll define the labor type, foreman, and I'll say this is senior foreman. Form work. We'll give them a rate of 120 an hour and save. There is an element here, however. You can see that some of these are in draft, some of these are active. I don't think we have them repeated, so let's deactivate some of them, and I'll just explain briefly what that looks like. Deactivate. The diaries is only going to let you add active both labor and equipment resources. So if I'm to come back to here and I go into labor and I'll try to link labor, only the active items are going to appear here. If you remember, equipment, traffic, both of our foremans aren't here. So I'll go into the foreman and I'll activate our foreman, and you can see that they're active. And we'll go back into diaries. And you can see that the foreman appeared there. I didn't really have to do anything. So we'll select foreman. And now you can see that my foreman is there and it wants to know how many. Let's do another, and we'll link a couple of, we'll take an equipment operator. And we'll also want a labor. And active. Now, just because the resource is in a previous diary, and I think equipment is a good example and may have been deactivated or that piece of equipment has left, does not mean that they can't continue to be in previous diaries. So the activate and deactivate option allows you to maintain the record there, but control whether anybody's able to select it, whether that be in a diary or DWR. So then the system would want you to specify how many, and let's say 1, 1, and 5, and then how many hours, which is, let's say 8, 8, and let's say overall 20 hours, and provide a comment. Nice white shirt, I mean even hat. Clean truck, and came on time, whatever that comment may be. Very similar for equipment. We don't have any equipment here. For materials aren't referenced from a register, they're just added. So if it was sand that came in, you'd say yellow sand and provide whatever description might need to be provided here. Very similar to notes. Notes have a time. So what is it? 11:07. Let me see here. 11:06:07 and associated note, and also a spell check, which is convenient. Associated note to it. We've already taken a look at case. We'll take a brief look at the weather. There's two options for weather here. One option is going to allow you to add current conditions based on the weather tower, and that's going to be set up. I think it's going to just add them all hourly. So the weather tower is going to take these readings based on the postal code every single hour, and then you'll have your own section where you can override, or I guess provide additional clarification to say that even though the weather tower says it's mostly cloudy, at about 11:10 the temperature was -3 and we actually had snow, and then provide the wind direction, the relative humidity if you may have it, the precipitation, and comment. Let's say you had to stop work. All right, so again, as you're filling all of this out, you're saving. The system is going to save all of this information and update it. And if we're in a point of where we are comfortable with what we filled out here, then we can move things on to a review. Let me just make sure. So it's going to come to me. So once this is done, somebody will click submit, and this is an example of what that workflow is going to look like. Once it's submitted, you're going to see a little pop-up at the bottom of the screen, and I'll just wait for it. And essentially, there's going to be a task that appears inside of the task portion. That's going to drive the next step of the workflow. Now, sometimes it takes a little bit for that task to come in, but it's certainly well within under a minute, but the system is going to process it and send the relevant notifications. In the meantime, while I wait for that, there you can see this is the diary that was just created. And this is what it would look like. Please be advised the diary has been submitted for review to, and it'll identify that it's been submitted to me. Give me the number, give me the title, the diary date, say it's a compensation request diary, say diary category is bituminous, inspector, contract setter. Let me see if my task has come in already. There you go. Here's my diary 19 review task. So this is sent to the contract administrator. whose job is going to be to review everything that the inspector filled out. The status moves to submitted. The volunteer is still me because I'm playing both roles here. But what would happen for the labor, you are able to see a column for CA comment. Well, also if we had equipment, but everything is going to have a CA comment associated to it now. And CA can say wrong time, or can provide whatever other comments that they want. As far as the laborers and equipment is concerned, they can say that, you know, let's say operator was late by two hours, and I'm not sure if this happens at all, but just as an example, and they'll say will reduce their labor hour by 2. And let's say they'll put 6. So once they're complete, they'll do the exact same thing. When you're in the task, the record still exists in the diary app. The task essentially moves everything over and allows just the contract administrator in this particular case to provide these edits, and that'll move standard. Until you make the, or you take the action that the task wants you to take that's other than save, in this particular instance, it wants you to click review to move this on to the next step, the task is going to appear here. So I can edit it and modify it in any way I want as many times as I want, but it's not going to move it forward for me until I click review. So when I do click review, it's going to disappear off the list and it's gone. If we were to go back into our diary app and enter the record 19, you can see that it's now closed and the stage has moved on to ready for reconciliation. You can see that the compensation request is linked here. There's a reference to contract, and that is essentially the end of the process within diary. And so various applications take you onto this little process tour as you go through it. And that's essentially what that's going to look like.
Great, and that's probably
Ryan,
a good time.
Yep.
Probably a good time,
Yep.
Arthur, to move on to some of the questions. I'll probably ask that Ryan and yourself add them. I can share my screen. I think one of the ones that am I showing the right
I have
thing?
one for you, Arthur. Jamie, if you don't mind, there's one came up that I wasn't sure of. I think it's a quick one. The calendar app. Is there a possibility to integrate that with Outlook out of the box, or is it just a basic calendar feature within the system?
It's a calendar feature within the system that'll show you. Well, there's going to be a couple of calendars. This is intended to be a project calendar. There's another calendar application that will show, maybe it's now included in this one, that will show all of the records on the calendar. And I think this is it. I'll add a calendar item.
You're not sharing anymore, Arthur.
Oh, sorry. There is no opportunity to integrate it with Outlook, if that's the question. Because a lot of the records here are going to be when was something submitted, when is something due, and those are really just driven by the business processes that are in here. If you're to integrate it with your calendar, that would be a lot of items. You can, however, let's say if you're going to meet with the contractor on the subject of something, you can paste a link in to the conversation you're going to have to this actual record so they know what you're talking about. But that's pretty much that. So this is intended more to be, let me see. No. Document dates. Include job office offsite. This is more intended to actually display the records and the events within Kahua. That's the purpose of this diary, right? So it'll say have done this on this particular date, and other items similar to this. There's
Thank
also
you.
a project calendar feature that allows you to do something a little bit different, and that's to display different types of records and occurrences. But as far as Outlook, you can copy emails to Outlook, but I'm not sure what deeper integration you would want in terms of calendar.
No, it was just, I was just asking. It makes sense. It's basically tied loosely to like the tasks list, right? And then other
Yes.
due date functionality. So yeah. I know there's
Any
some
other
hands up.
questions?
Yeah, I don't know if we're taking, because I don't think folks can speak in the meeting. So if Andrew and Goyal and Hadaway don't mind typing your questions in, then we
They
can
can
answer them.
try, Ryan. I think I might
Yeah.
I tried to change the settings based on the issues we were having at the beginning of the meeting. So if somebody wants to try to unmute their mic, they can. Otherwise, we'll just maybe start from the bottom of the questions that came in and start highlighting some of them, get through as many as we can.
Sure.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
just to help you guys out, we could talk. Just gotta unmute your mic.
Okay. Sweet. I think it was Andrew who was first then with their hand up. Oh, his hand's down. Goyal, do you want to ask your question?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. And Hadaway Reed?
Yeah, just one quick question. Are the files from WBCMS going to be transferred over to CMS?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. So
they will.
yeah, there's two. It's twofold.
When
The
can we expect
complete.
that to happen?
It's happening currently in the background. We're doing it before go live.
So yeah, so all the contracts will appear in CMS. Obviously, there's certain functionality in CMS that's different than WBCMS. So not all records will have a direct home, like a direct mapping. Where that's the case, there is a file manager application within CMS. Some records will be stored there that weren't a one-to-one conversion over, but yes, all the contracts will be. And I know there was some other questions around setup and will the existing users be in the system as well. So they will be added to the system as contacts, but then when the contract is finalized for setup in the new system, each of the users for that contract will be invited to collaborate on that contract. They'll be added by MTO into the project roster for that contract, and they'll receive a notification. So it is different than WBCMS in that the ministry manages the access to the solution as opposed to the service provider setting up all the licenses. So there's no subscription fees for external users, and the ministry is in charge of administering that. So we'll be tackling that by setting up the active contracts that have active winter construction work going on, and that'll be the priority for go live in that first week and few days. And then we'll be continuing to set up, other contracts that are intended to be active in the spring, and then the completed contracts, just rolling them in a sequential fashion. All right, so Ryan, do we have any another question that we want to address from the Q&A?
Yeah, there's a few good ones here that kind of speak to general improvements and different things in the system. So will the system have interlocks that will restrict certain tasks happening until the required stakeholders have signed off? So for the most part, no. We're talking about validations. We have made an effort to remove a lot of validations, whether they were applicable or not, and rely basically on the users. So the system isn't going to enforce business because that isn't always the way the business is run for every circumstance. So making a blanket design choice for an app or a validation for a workflow in a contract or something we found it caused a lot of issues in WBCMS. So we have stripped a lot of those out. There's a couple still where it's required, but for the most part, no. We're relying on the project controllers and the CAs and everyone else to, you know, administer as per the case and the GCs and the contract. Do diary entries have restrictions for completion submission? Do tickets get entered into a diary or a separate location? So 2 questions, good questions. So the diaries, that's another good thing, good improvement I think we've made. There's no more timeout. So you don't get kicked out, you don't get locked out. I believe the CA gets a reminder after 72
3 days.
hours. Just 3 days. Yeah, just that, hey, you still have an open diary. Now there's two main reasons. One is that, you know, it was problematic for the users, but also diaries contain pay statements now, which they always have as per our business. So when you have pay statements in your diary, it's very much expected that the CA is inspecting those and reviewing those diaries, the inspector diaries, because after that review of a pay statement in the diary that Arthur just went through, it is reconciled and it's going to be present in the reconciliation. So that itself, we hope, is going to encourage the completion of diaries. And then again, just as I mentioned in the last answer there, I know we're relying on CSAs and CAs and project managers of the CA firms to ensure that they're doing their diligence with the diaries and they're completing them. And if there's 50 open diaries at the end of the month, we would expect a conversation to be had. And that's as far as it really needs to go for now. And then, you know, if there's issues in the future, we may have to alter that. But I think it's very much in line with how it's worked for years anyway, and there hasn't been too many issues that way. Going down here, the previous system did not have request to proceed and notice to proceed folder for submission. These documents were being submitted. Yeah, so we do have them. There was a folder. It was called Certificate of Conformance, but we only had that. It wasn't a folder. It was a function or a process. But no, that is the verification notices suite that I was speaking to up front in the slides. So that's taking in several different of the former QVE processes, such as notice proceed, request proceed, all that good stuff. The inspector is responsible to enter hourly rates in the diary. No, that is in the equipment and the labor list still. So, you know, much like WBCMS functioned, you set those up there. That's where the rates are applied, and you're only selecting them and applying hours to them in the diary. And I just realized I forgot the second answer to this one up here. Do tickets get entered into a diary or a separate location? So the tickets go into the material weight ticket suite if you're a CA. So it's separate from the diary, but then the sum total of those tickets are going to be they're going to manifest as a pay statement in your diary. So you do the tickets separately in another app, but then you jump over to your diary, and once you've closed out the summary for the tickets, that amount will be available for you to select, and then it gets reviewed by the CA and it gets paid. Can multiple reconciliations, statements of working days, etc., be entered on an ongoing basis, or is a system process pending on the completion? I think I know where this one's going. Yeah, so, well, 2 different things. The reconciliations, I believe, still have to be finished before another one can commence, just because the nature of how they function in the system. Arthur, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can only have 1 open reconciliation at a time.
No, you can have multiples, but remember, when you pull in into reconciliation, it'll lock you from pulling in those items again. So you can have as many of them as you want going concurrently. They will not include same items.
Yeah, so they can't include the same items. Thank you.
Yeah.
Statement of working days. So that, yeah, I know the issue you're talking about. One of them had to be completed before you could start the next one. And, you know, sometimes if someone didn't acknowledge a statement of working days, it would bind up that process. The same is for the consent to sublets. Not so much someone not acknowledging it, but you had to finish the first ones before you could start the second ones, because the second one's calculation was based on the result of the first one. So both of those issues have been fixed. It took some careful work from Arthur's team, we'll say, because it is a tricky logical issue from the standpoint of the computer itself. But yeah, those have been repaired. Additionally, on the DWR reconciliation cover page, will a link to information be visible so the user? Yep. So you can always view source record. So if a DWR is linked to a CR or a CO, that should be present there. Additionally, if you are, say you're a contractor, you submit a compensation request and you begin taking daily work records, you link those to the CR, just like in the old system. That's how we sort them out and filter them and then reconcile them and pay them. I just lost my train of thought there. Oh, sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to add something to that, but sorry. It'll come to me. It was mentioned a contact will have access for the duration of the project. Does that apply to just external people? No, I guess no, like internally you'll have access to the project as long as you're assigned to it. If you don't want to be anymore, you can always remove yourself from the project group and then you'll lose access to it. And then particularly contract services folks, you would just be able to add yourself in again. So it shouldn't be too hard. Are diary records defaulted to be shared with CA for reconciliation, or does inspector need to share by adding them to the list? No, they automatically go. So when an inspector completes a diary, it automatically goes to the CA, regardless if it contains a pay statement or not. The CA will have to go in there and review it. And then, yeah, that's about it for that one. Is there a time period to complete on inspector diary before being timed out? No, I think I spoke to this one already, but no more timeout. Just a reminder to the CA after 3 days that they do have open diaries that they should close. From an audit standpoint, it's difficult for us to review a diary and fully trust the information in it if it's not quote unquote signed off by the end user. Will detail reports for documents still be available for download to use outside of CMS? Yep. So we've configured portable files for pretty much every process, and they are largely AODA compliant as well. Will there be a section showing deficiencies in their status? Yes. So we have our deficiencies list. Another improvement is it's been built in with the warranties. So now in order to release a warranty, the deficiencies list has to be dealt with first. Will CA staff be able to enter equipment and labor? Yep, as WBCMS is only permitted at the contractor level. Yeah, so the equipment and labor, and I remembered what I wanted to say before. Thank you for bringing up daily work records again. The equipment and labor can be entered by either the contractor or the CA. The rates are
fake news. I think it's fake news. Yeah.
The rates are input by either as well, and then obviously the equipment rates are subject or not subject, they are to be as per the 127 rates. What I wanted to touch on before was the material list. So the material list I think was a little convoluted in how it was configured in WBCMS. It does so the materials list now only serves to intake the contractor's DSM items. There's a link to the DSM items there. They list them all there. It's kept for record, but that's it. The materials list, as you see it in a daily work record, is a strict empty field where you just type materials in. So you type in a box of nails, a tube of epoxy, and I had to rent a scissor lift. And so you'd put the invoice for the scissor lift, the price of the nails and everything, put the scissor lift equipment in a rental in the rental section, and you're on your way. The TMSP as well, if you forget something at the daily work record or you don't have it available like the invoice, you can attach and input entries for the material list in the TMSP. So when you're submitting it, you say, okay, I finally got the receipt for that, the invoice for the scissor lift. I'll put it in here now, attach it there. Yeah, so that we hope that's an improvement. Reports are often searched. Yep.
Ryan, we've reached the end of the time for the session. We're at 11:30. I'm really happy to see that there are a lot of questions that have come through, especially in the last 10 minutes or so. So we will, after the session, try to answer as many of those as possible, and I believe everyone will still have access to them. We will also copy them all down, consider them for our training support materials that will be posted. I want to remind everyone that we do have another general session like this scheduled for this Friday. If we'll certainly incorporate this feedback into that as well. And we do have availability for up to 1,000 people per session. So at this one, I think we were up over 600, but I know for the one for Friday, it's far less than that. So feel free to join in again for another session. And I really want to thank everyone for their patience. And as this was our first big session and first time using the webinar sort of functionality within Microsoft Teams, I have posted in the Q&A a link to a very brief feedback form. And we'd really appreciate anyone taking the time. I think it's just 4 or 5 questions that can be done in under 30 seconds, but that will help us become better for our future sessions and get your feedback. So with that, I just really want to say thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Again, we're excited to bring the new CMS system to you next Monday, if everything continues to go on track as it is. And we look forward to supporting you and transitioning into the new system. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to Ryan and Arthur for presenting. And we hope to see you at future sessions. Thanks, everyone.
Can I just ask there's several people with their hands up. I'll stay on and keep the chat going. If you guys want to ask the questions, we're going to take all the questions back, answer them, and then we'll distribute them to this group with all the answers, obviously. So if we didn't have time to verbally respond, please feel free to put it in the chat and you'll get an answer. Or the
Sounds good.
Q&A, sorry, not the chat.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.